This weekend we have a heavyweight fight in the UFC between Francis Ngannou and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This fight has the potential to be the Ngannou-Derek Lewis fight that failed to live up to the hype. Ngannou believes a win will get him the next shot at the heavyweight title, and Rozenstruik is looking to potentially leapfrog him, if he can cause an upset. Both fighters have frightening power and both have the potential to switch each other's light off. We recommend that you don't blink for this one. Ngannou is coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins and 3 losses, winning his last 3 fights by first-round knockout. He's beat the likes of Cain Velasquez, Alistair Overeem and Curtis Blaydes. There isn't much that can be said about Francis that we don't already know. He will look for that right-hand knockout. He has so much confidence in his power, and rightly so. The strange thing about his power is that his shots never seem to land clean, but always finds the off switch. This shot that dropped Blaydes only seemed to glance his head, but was still enough to put him on the floor. Similarly against Cain, the shot that dropped him was a short uppercut that shouldn't have generated enough power to floor his opponent, but was enough to make Cain's knees buckle. If his knee hadn't popped, maybe we would have seen a recovery, but all it seems to take is a touch and Ngannou's opponents go. In his last fight against Junior dos Santos, he mixed in some early leg kicks that we might see him employ against Rozenstruik to slow him down in the opening round. In his last fight against Junior dos Santos, he mixed in some early leg kicks that we might see him employ against Rozenstruik to slow him down in the opening round. Eventually, this fight went the same way most of Ngannou's fights go, and he drops dos Santos with a shot from behind. Again, the shot looked to glance dos Santos' chin, but it was still enough to finish the fight. Rozenstruik is coming into this fight unbeaten, winning his first 10 fights, knocking out 9 of those opponents. He's beaten the likes of Andrei Arlovski and Alistair Overeem. Against Arlovski he used some heavy leg kicks early, which could be a problem for Francis. He closed out the show when he caught his opponent rushing in and knocked him out. When Rozenstruik faced Overeem, he was taken down a few times and kept there for long periods of time. I don't see the fight going to the floor, but Francis may see that as an option. Rozenstruik took some heavy shots in this fight and it didn't seem to bother him at all. We mentioned earlier that Ngannou only has to touch his opponents and they go down, so it will be interesting to see how he takes those shots. As the fight with Overeem went on, Rozenstruik didn't seem to slow down at all. We have seen Francis tire when his fights go longer than a couple of rounds, so the longer it goes, the more it will favor Rozenstruik. In terms of our prediction for this fight, we believe that Francis Ngannou will get a knockout inside 2 rounds. I think Rozenstruik has a hell of a chin, but Francis will push it to its limits and he will stop him. Please leave your predictions in the comments below, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We finally have another UFC fight to talk about, and although it's not the one we wanted, it's a hell of a backup. Tony Ferguson will face Justin Gaethje for the interim UFC lightweight title. The winner will be first in line to face Khabib later this year for the undisputed title. You have to feel for Ferguson, who will feel that he is already the interim title holder after beating Kevin Lee back in 2017. He was harshly stripped of that title after an injury and has been looking to get his hands on Khabib ever since. To get that chance, he has to now get past Justin Gaethje. Both fighters are known for wars and this fight will be bloody. Tony Ferguson is coming into this fight with a record of 25 wins and 3 losses. He's won his last 12 fights, beating the likes of Kevin Lee, Edson Barbosa and Donald Cerrone. He's known for his awkward style, slicing elbows and unbelievable cardio. He leaves all his opponents looking as though they have been in a car accident. In his fight against Kevin Lee, it was no different. We know Ferguson is hittable and he was getting caught early with some shots, but we know all too well that he can take a punch while keep walking forward. He likes to hang his chin high, inviting opponents to hit him. We know that Gaethje won't let too many of those opportunities go to waste. Kevin Lee, like Gaethje, has a good wrestling background and managed to take Ferguson down a couple of times, putting him in real danger at the end of the first round. We are yet to see Gaethje's wrestling, but it could play a factor in this fight. Ferguson loves to throw that left snapping jab to bloody his opponents. He keeps walking forward and constantly changes stances to keep his opponents guessing. He throws kicks, elbows, anything to make sure he keeps touching his opponents and keep them wondering what's coming next. Against Pettis, he came out the gates with an array of kicks and that left jab that he uses so well. His pressure was exhausting and you can see Pettis breathing heavy early on. He never chased his opponent, he just makes sure to cut him off. One thing we mentioned earlier was Ferguson's tendency to keep his chin high, and against Pettis he always looked open to an overhand right. Pettis capitalized on this in the second round, dropped Ferguson twice and had Tony in real trouble. He managed to recover well and used the opportunity to slice open Pettis with elbows from the bottom. Gaethje will look for these shots and is probably a heavier. Justin Gaethje is coming into this fight with a record of 21 wins and 2 losses. He's won his last 3, also beating Edson Barbosa and Donald Cerrone. This will be his first shot at UFC gold and many think he could be Khabib's toughest matchup if he gets past Tony Ferguson. When Gaethje stepped into the ring against James Vick, it was the first time we saw the new. He was caught a couple times with kicks early in this fight but absorbed them well. His ability to. Gaethje was careful and considered and picked his shots before he slept Vick with a brutal overhand right, which we know Tony is susceptible to. When he fought Edson Barbosa, he used those brutal leg kicks to slow him down early on. He caught Barbosa early and had him rocked. The old Gaethje would have dived in and poured it on, opening himself to a counter, but he was reserved, picking his shots. He took his time until he caught Barbosa with another overhand right and knocked him out. Again, against Donald Cerrone, Gaethje used those brutal leg kicks to chop his opponent down and reduce his movement. Gaethje caught Donald with several right-hand shots before he eventually stopped the fight, and you know he will find a home for it against Ferguson. The question is, can Tony recover once he takes them? We think this fight will be an all-out war and has the potential to be an all-time classic. As for a prediction, we believe Tony Ferguson will get the win. I don't think he will stop Gaethje, but I believe it will be 5 rounds of hell, with Tony getting the decision. Please leave your prediction for the fight in the comments below. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe.